Hey, how you doing, brother?
All right. When you called me, you knocked me off.
That's my fault, man. I
Yeah,
just make some people in the chat.
I have connectivity problems. Hadn't changed much. It's rough.
I
But
got you,
anyway,
man.
I'm fine.
How you doing tonight, sir?
I'll manage.
Okay. Well, you just the man I need to be talking to because it's been a couple of things been going on, and first off, I want to say good evening to the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. Is glad to have you back. That's
All
first point.
right, young man. My pleasure, as always.
Now yesterday we had a holiday called MLK Day, and
Yes.
there was a situation I saw. I'm not gonna put it up on video, but they had somebody twerking at the statue. Called it BLM
Oh,
twerking at the statue,
God. Black lesbian madness, or black lesbian mania.
and I couldn't
They
believe
get
it.
revolting. Come on now. You know what? Let's fast forward to next month. African American history. Afro American History Month. Then it was Black History Week before that, and they had a colored day before that. And everybody that the kids get to study in Black history is somebody bug dancing, singing, generally entertaining somebody, or running a football or throwing a basketball. Ain't nobody done shit on there that they have about making a consequence in the world. We study history to learn its lesson. So what is the lesson? Bug dancing? I mean, come on now. They never teach it. Like one history lesson that we talked to you about this before. American history runs in 50-year cycles when it comes to mass release of built up hostility, aggression, and tension. 50
Doesn't he
years
say
ago, black folk burnt down cities, and in this case, the vanilla cupcakes, who were peaceniks, hippies, and whatever, were protesting the war. 50 years before that, 100 years ago now, 1919, 20, 21, 22. Those old time, good old boy white folks lynched thousands of black folk, Negroes or colored, they called them, burnt down a whole lot of black tenements and businesses. And DC, Woodrow Wilson, a Democratic president, invited all these good old boys in. You know, he was from Virginia, to cleanse the capital of all these inconvenient colored folks. So they lynched almost 500 black folk in D.C. over a week long period, burnt down many black homes, apartment buildings, and wounded or injured almost 6,000 more black folk in D.C. That was 100 years ago, plus two. And nobody said a damn thing about it. Now, fortunately, the black folk didn't just take it passively. They got some black Pullman car porters to smuggle in guns from Baltimore and a few other places. And black folk were on the roofs of these tenements sniping at the white folk who wanted to burn them down. Finally, they literally called in the cavalry and an army infantry unit, and they quelled the violence. And then you know how we always, yeah, they used to have a black Wall Street. They had a black stock market. They was doing everything. And then them white folk came in and lynched all them black folk and burnt the place down. Well, that was in 1921, 100 years ago. Get ready for it. They're trying to make this thing look like Trump incited these white folk. Don't nobody have to incite them. They get angry. But this time there's a difference. All you got to do is wear a MAGA hat or NRA hat or something that looks like you go hunting, and ain't nobody going to bother you. Now, we've seen a whole year and a half worth of all kinds of cutting up, breaching of the public peace, dignity, and order out in the streets. And it ain't nothing but these vanilla cupcakes with a few chocolate sprinkles scattered around. Now, they've been having a ecology protest. You know, like save the polar bears, save the elephants and the gorillas and the giraffes and the lions and the tigers. You're no longer king of the jungle, and you're in danger. Save the polar bear from global melting, save the whales, dolphins, etc. And also save these poor Afro bipeds that were imported in unwisely several hundred years ago and got set free to run wild about 150, 60 years ago. And now they are an invasive species threatening the environment, but we still must save them from these evil boys in blue who hunt them. It's just not fair. Yeah, damn. They don't even ask you when you get all these BLM, Black Lesbian Mania demonstrations and this other stuff that's actually just a bunch of surrogates for LGBTQ. Whoa, what do you get? You get 9, 10 vanillas out of every 11 and 1 or 2 chocolates in there that prancing around like that little thing where that sissified creature was prancing around in front of those police like a damn fool. I know they were giggling. It probably took everything they had to stop laughing, but he probably served a good purpose. They said, if this is what it's all about, this ain't nothing but some sissified punks out here. We don't need to be worried. Let's watch the freak show. So I mean, I suppose they serve a good function. But you know what this is really about? This is not Trump. Trump is a red herring, and he's been scapegoated by the press, who for 4 years has lied long and loudly about what he's about. He's a racist this, he's a racist that. And one of the biggest racist bigots I've ever listened to or heard in my whole lifetime is that jackass that just got elected for the Jackass Party, bigot Joe Biden. I personally witnessed him in 1972 when I was doing an intern thing for a DC think tank. I was on the steps of the rundown, ragged-ass state capitol for Delaware. It's an old ramshackle shackled mansion from almost 300 years ago. And he was out there with Strom Thurmond, James O. Eastland, George Wallace. Oh, man, who else out there? John B. Stennis, all these racist MFs out there. And they were lauding him as the new upcoming yellow dog Dixiecrat. And he was promising to keep segregation in place after it already been outlawed. He said, we cannot allow our schools to be desegregated because Negro children are like roaches. And if you let them in, even 1 or 2, soon they'll be infesting the whole place. And then he talked about the Negroes and their criminality. They were like animals, and they made the streets into jungles. So he and Strom Thurmond had a great plan, which was, we're going to set up zoos, also known as penitentiaries, so we can use the Negroes' criminality to put him in these zoos and keep them safely out of the way. Yeah, sure. Bigot, racist, dog.
Well, let's talk about that.
Bad all of a sudden, but the slave Negroes down on the plantation, they don't know it, and they just love them some Master Biden. Oh, Lord, I'm so proud.
Well, let me say something.
Crying freak. What's that freak that was on CNN that causes us to call it Crying Negro Network? What's his name?
Van Jones.
Oh, Van Jones, yeah. Oh, I'm so happy that they beat Trump. Oh, my God. So what is wrong with you?
Well, let me say something to you.
Biden and his boys punking you in your butt or something? What's the matter with you?
Let me say something to you, Judge. It's a wonderful young lady in the chat named Monique 2C. And I had a conversation with her last week. And I don't know too many people from Boise, Idaho, but she had an interesting concern because I was saying this seemed like another scapegoat because a lot of people set out this election and they're putting us for the biggest election cheat in history. Don't you think that?
Yeah, we didn't have. Yeah, God, they're scapegoating us. Well, no way. They see what they're doing is they're setting us up so that when the real white folk get angry and pissed, There's one of them right over there. And it ain't got on no mega cap. Let's go get it. It's running wild.
Well, she explained to me her concerns, but she did also admit
There's a
that,
varmint, boys. It's free hunting on them.
yeah.
Don't need no license.
Well, she said in Idaho they are strapped, so that's good. I just give her that. She did
Good.
say that, but a lot of people aren't. I mean, the gun shops are low. People are buying guns, and
Well, I mean, goddamn, if you ain't had the sense to turn your bucks to bang instead of bling by now, you shit out of luck.
well, I
And
was working
Master
with you guys
Biden's about
today.
to make it safe in them streets by taking all them guns from them niggers down there that don't know what to do with them. Oh, Lord Jesus, we's gonna be so safe. By the way, they want to charge Trump with inciting the riot in D.C. because about 800 people were crowding around the Capitol. Most of them there, because of the First Amendment, says they have a right to address the government. Where is the government but in D.C. and in the Capitol building? They make the laws for the redress of grievances. And that is the Constitution's
See, a lot of people don't
amendment, First
understand.
Amendment. That's what they were doing, but they claimed Trump was inciting them. Now, how about this one? You see this thing where they've got another caravan busting up from Honduras to race to the border so they
Yeah, I
can
see it.
get in and invade the United States? Well, doesn't that make Master Biden guilty of inciting disorder? Because it's not just 800 people, it's millions who are rushing here to sneak in, and that's criminal. So isn't he inciting the breaking of crime? Oh, good Lord. How about let's have 3 impeachments in a couple of years, starting with him for the number 3.
Well, let's
That's
say something
inciting,
about.
right? By the way, you know what they're calling Trump is inciting for? If you read the articles of impeachment, if you, me, or whatever got a brother, we need to get downtown to the city hall and show these fools down there we ain't playing because it's time black folk got something in our community for a change. You go down there and somebody decides to get hot-headed, or some white folk down there decide they want to get a little bit wild because they don't know how it is, then you get charged with inciting to a riot. See, I've heard this nonsense before. That's what they pulled on. H. Rap Brown tried to pull off on Malcolm, pulled off on Martin Luther King, pulled off on Stokely Carmichael, pulled off on the BSUs, the Panther Party, and everybody else. See, that same language is what you heard 50 some years ago. This stuff that Pelosi's introduced is so gross that even NBC had an editorial on it, written by a Hispanic editor. And in it, he pointed out correctly. He said that this legislation is unneeded. There's already a bunch on the books. And if you put this in place, it goes so far that the first victims are probably going to be, he put it his way first, brown and black people in a few years who might have protests or demonstrations that they engage in. See, we're damn fools going around trying to get hoist by our own petard. That meant a petard was a kind of dagger that had, they called it a bollocks dagger. And it had balls at the front of the grip. It was supposed to represent a dick and balls. So when one got hoisted by one's own petard, you got picked up by your own dick and thrown. So that's about what black folk are doing, support Master Biden, who always been about his plantation niggers.
Well, let me say something to you because I wanted to get back to one thing. We get to this civil rights thing, and we were talking about this civil rights nonsense, which I guess the new civil rights is Biden appointing a transgender health
Oh,
secretary.
affirmative action for the LGBTQ cult. Yeah, great. We aren't even mentioning that Equality Act, by the way. Remember that slime ball, Juicy Jesse, aka Jesse Smollett, led or whatever the hell he calls himself, pulled that fake thing off. with a noose that he bought at a Halloween costume shop the week of Halloween. That's what Chicago police have on a security tape. Well, he put that around his neck, and houseboy Booker, Cory Booker of the U.S. Senate, and Humphrey Harris, now apparently VP elect, they immediately brought this thing that John Conyers had come up with 1997, I think, brought it back and labeled it the anti-lynch bill. And it had been languishing all that time, 23 years, and all of a sudden it got passed on a voice vote as in the House as the Equality Act, which is still pending in the Senate. But since the jackasses took over the Senate, well, no telling, it'll probably be in the law. It's affirmative action for LGBTQ. It basically starts legitimating pedophilia, and it's unneeded and it's sick, and it makes sexual choices of certain types a protected category that entitles you to things you were born with, like whether you got a dick or a penis, or a pussy or a vagina, and or you're Catholic, or you are from a certain nation, color, or race, but they say your sexual choices. And then people say, we are born that way. I said, well, yeah. So that means every time you guys have sex, you get raped? Of course not. It's consensual. In other words, it's voluntary, right? Yes, of course it's voluntary. Well, if it's voluntary, that's a choice. Yes. Well, then, in other words, one of your goddamn choices is supposed to entitle you to special treatment. How about, like I keep saying every time I get on here, I say, how about if we give women who like to get on top and do reverse cowgirl, let's give them special status? Or, yeah, man, I like to do it from the rear, man, doggy style, man. How about us? Damn, we aren't entitled to equal protection under the 14th Amendment to the laws of the United States. How about us?
One thing you say interesting, Judge. It's one thing you say interesting,
man, is if you seen this shit that the Pelosi introduced about you got to use a person's right pronoun. Hell, man, some of these punk asses ain't even worthy of remembering who the fuck they are name wise, let alone what the hell ass pronoun you're supposed to say. How the hell do I know? Man, motherfucker got this shit tattooed on his forehead. I am an it, damn. Or I am a them, or I am a they, I'm not a he or a she. I'm some kind of it, What the hell? That is absolutely ridiculous. And then you saw that damn fool
break down the civil
appointment. But remember the motherfucker that did that prayer for opening the session, and he said, amen. Well, a woman, I guess. I said, what the hell is this fool doing? He's so stupid and ignorant. He's opening the U.S. Joint session of the House and the Senate, and this fool doesn't even realize that amen is the Latin term for so be it. And he's talking about a woman. Damn, they're ignorant. And see, look, there are too many people that I died and bled for, not that died and bled for getting our stuff together as a people. There's too many sacrifices. Hey, I made personally too many tight ropes my ass was on for it all to be done because of somebody likes to get butt fucked or suck dick and he got a dick. What in the hell is that? That is obscene. And by the way, you know how you can tell who your true enemies are?
Okay, go ahead and tell them.
I told you. Your true enemy is the one that you get nervous about speaking a slur about. You can call white folk crackers and rednecks and everything else. You can call Jews kikes. You're not supposed to. You can call Mexicans wetbacks and Italians greasers and black folk niggers and all this other shit, but you say faggot somewhere. If you broadcast this, they're likely to block you because you put it on YouTube if you use that word. But you can call anybody else anything you want with impunity, even on children's cartoon shows. in the movies, on television. You can use any slur you want about everybody but that alphabet bunch. And that's how you tell who your enemies are and what the propaganda is about. And all these people believe all this nonsense that they've been propagandized to believe. You can tell when it starts working, when they start thinking in terms of the propaganda. As Joseph Goebbels said, the Nazi minister of propaganda. What? Tell a lie long enough, loud enough, often enough, you can get anybody to believe it. And those lies range all the way from Aryans being blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and you got the Aryan nation, the Aryan Brotherhood, and the glorious Aryan ancestors from the far north of Germany. But the truth of the matter is, they're called Indo-Aryans, and they're from India, and they look like Queen Harris. So, you got all kinds of bullshit out there that people believe. And I'm cussing, but you can cuss all you want now, because it used to be the only thing that got censored was obscenity and pornography. Now you got amateur porn queens as celebrities, prostitutes as celebrities, street walking prostitutes as celebrities, and respectable and on kids shows and role models and political commentators. What the hell?
Yep.
This country is, you know what? That thing says the meek shall inherit the earth. I think that's a mistranslation. It probably meant the weak shall inherit the United States any damn way and then lose it because the Chinese are watching and grinning. Also,
speaking of Chinese, the DNI just reported that China interfered in an election last Friday. Come think about it. Very interesting.
And have you seen that thing CCP, the Taiwanese Chinese governmental agency, has been putting out on that Hunter Biden laptop? They want people to know who they're getting in, who is supporting mainland China. And on that thing, by the way, it's in front of a federal grand jury. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Barack Obama are discussing essentially treason and bribery. They're discussing calling the U.S. Navy off of its aggressive patrols to resist the Chinese incursions into Philippine territorial waters, Japanese territorial waters, South Korean territorial waters, in the South China Sea. And guess what? They called him off. But on the video that CCP has released, which has been authenticated all over Europe, but not even mentioned here, they're supposed to get a 10% cut each of $1 billion to be given to a company that Hunter Biden was associated with. That's $100 million apiece. That's high treason. And by the way, the penalty for that, which was clarified last year, was death by firing squad.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
By the way, it's in front of a grand jury. And some fool told me, well, the new U.S. attorney going to call off that nonsense. Once the grand jury gets something, can't anybody touch it till they get through with it or until their term expires. And then there's this other thing in the Constitution itself. It says the supreme law of the land shall be this Constitution. 1, such laws as are promulgated by Congress to effectuate the Constitution. And 3, such treaties as have been ratified by the Senate. These shall be the supreme law of the land. I guess what treaty we've got with the Ukraine about extradition, prosecution, apprehension of criminals, investigation thereof, etc. And guess who is named as a co-defendant in multiple counts of a Ukrainian indictment, which is pending, not just Hunter Biden, but the president-elect. And of course, we'd have to violate the supreme law of the land not to extradite his ass back over there to Ukraine for prosecution. And the charges range from, again, bribery, extortion, subornation thereof, and most interestingly, conspiracy to commit insubordination of treason over there. So this is interesting.
Okay, question.
And I guess if he's inciting uh, evading apprehension and prosecution under a treaty which says it shall, and the Constitution says, ratified treaties shall be enforced by all federal and state judges. Now, somebody is being a little hypocritical here. You know that old proverb, be careful what you ask for. You just might get it.
Well, I'm gonna say something to you here, because I want to bring this to you. I wanted to bring something to you about this King thing, and you always say that it wasn't about civil rights, and
No,
they
it
bring
wasn't.
it.
It wasn't.
Well,
I saw all the internal. I saw a bunch of internal memoranda. They didn't discuss civil rights one time. The FBI was boldly in their internal memoranda discussing assassinating King. Their reasons had nothing to do with civil rights. They were debating on whether he'd be more dangerous as a dead martyr or as a live agitator who would galvanize the anti-war movement and revitalize labor. Didn't say one damn thing about civil rights. That was dead, by the way. This is 1967, 1968, and it was militancy. Power to the people. Black power to black people, etc. Panther power to the vanguard. Right on. I'm black and I'm proud. I ain't getting on my knees for no MF. He raised a hand to me, he ain't bringing back his arm. You know, the cities got burnt down. LA, Detroit, you know, places like that. Chicago, all kinds of places got cleansed with flame, you know, and fire. So there's some mythology in this. The civil rights thing was over. It met its last gasp in 1964 with that Selma thing. What we saw on the West Coast, but apparently the people didn't see here in the South, was when those police turned those fire hoses on those demonstrators and set those dogs loose. They made a mistake because the march had reached the foot of the bridge and going to Montgomery. And what happened was that all of these black folk from housing projects and in the hood were gathered to see what was going on. So when they set the dogs into the crowd, the dogs got thrown out dead or mortally injured. Cops got the shit beat out of them, helmets locked off, fire hoses got cut, and they put on a show. And on the West Coast, we were going, right on, go for it. Yeah, yeah. As you see in school, it was embarrassing. White folks were going, yo, you guys, you're down the earth. It is pragmatic. Get your ass kicked, man. Don't you feel embarrassed, man? Get your ass kicked like that, man? Yeah, we did. So when it switched over, it was a thing. So civil rights, get out of it. That is not why they killed King. So you need to know the truth. And by the way, this lie that they have told so damn long that James Earl Ray is responsible, and I've got all this bullshit about Raoul, this and that and the other. And Raoul talks about he had a box with Ray's right. Look, the FBI standard issue rifle was a Remington 760 Game Master pump in 30 caliber. Their alternative long gun was a Remington 870 12 gauge shotgun in a pump action. The idea was because they worked the same, there would be built in familiarity because they needed it. Because remember, the FBI agents were nerds. They weren't like Melvin Purvis and Elliot Ness, who were brought in killers, who were police detectives that had proven themselves able to kill folk. What it was all about was these accountants who were FBI agents and lawyers specializing in tax who were FBI agents. They needed something to help them out. because they were law school and accounting school and business school nerds from back in the history of the FBI. So any damn FBI agent around in the Memphis area either had an 870 or a 760 Remington at his disposal. So if somebody walked in with something that looked like every other FBI agent was carrying, every third FBI agent a second one, and nobody raising an eyebrow. And Captain Tommy Smith of the Memphis Police Department's homicide squad, who retired as a captain in charge, well, guess what? He certainly had something to say about that. I interviewed him. Hell, he wound up saying when he got there was no gun. We walked in and out of the entrance to the flop house again and again for an hour and a half. Discovered that a tree that was blocking any view of the Lorraine Motel from the flop house that was standing when we got there had been cut down within the hour. And an hour and a half after we were walking in and out down this hallway, all of a sudden this gun and some radios and a 6-pack of beer miraculously appear in the hallway. And a radio would raise inmate designation on a brass plaque affixed to it with the group, and some underwear and shaving utilities. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, because I've been there. I've seen the flop house and everything, and
Yeah, we went by there.
yeah, I was with you. Yeah, I don't. I just don't like how they, like, and we got to be honest about the civil rights movement, because the civil rights movement also had factions of the gay community trying to jump into that too.
Oh yeah, well, see, a lot of people, black folk, didn't want to deal with the civil rights thing because of his gay association. Bayard Rustin and what's this congressman that just died in
John
Georgia,
Lewis.
John Lewis. They were supposed to be that kind of special buddy and all that. Now the gays in California are trying to get Bayard Rustin recognized as the architect of the civil rights movement, which he sure as hell wasn't. And I remember I asked my dad and some of his buddies what they meant about gay, and he said, "Well, I'll explain it to you." And then one day, I think I was in the freshman in high school, I think, and I was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. My old man dropped section 2 of the LA Times. He said, "That's what we're talking about." And it said, "Last evening, Los Angeles Police Department officers received a call and upon arrival found Bayard Rustin, a confidant of Martin Luther King Jr., and a noted civil rights activist in the back seat of an automobile being sodomized by a male white suspect while he, Rustin, was performing fellatio upon a second male white individual." That was in LA Times. And to commemorate that, this past year, the gay community got the governor of California to posthumously pardon Bayard Rustin for getting busted being in the back seat of a car getting busted while giving head at the same time. So that's why a lot of people didn't want to deal with it. It sounds much like what's going on right now with BLM. It's supposed to nominally mean Black Lives Matter, which is nothing wrong with that as a concept, but as an organization, it's just Black Lesbian Mania. And it lists on its site, used to anyway, and I still have screenshots of it. They are closely affiliated with LGBTQ and LGBTQIA, they put it, and any donations that you send will be split 3 ways with LGBTQ, BLM, and Act Blue, which is a Democratic Party front organization. In fact, they say the money is actually collected by Act Blue and then the balance distributed to BLM and LGBTQIA. I bet a lot of black folk that gave good money to BLM did not realize it was going to LGBTQIA. Also, speaking of conspiring and stuff somebody needs to investigate, It still may be there, but it was on the BLM site. It says, we organize, coordinate, and provide communications for demonstrations and protest. All that stuff in the streets. I count billions of dollars of property damages in the inner cities and in the cities, especially amongst black businesses and black properties, done in the name of protesting a black man killed by police. And at least 47 people have lost their lives this year and that kind of mess.
More people
Nobody concerned about that.
More people killed by BLM than what they claim happened at the Capitol riot.
Exactly.
Right?
More people have died in BLM inspired mess than they are protesting have been killed. 47, the last count.
Yeah, and guess what? The majority of the people killed in their protests were black.
Yeah, and the overwhelming, almost insignificant percentage out there demonstrating were black. I'd say you got maybe somewhere around 9 to 11% of the demonstrators are black. Of course, the media, after it was nothing but whites out there, started focusing on big sisters out there with 10, 12 boxes of athletic shoes running out of a store that they just looted them from. Like,
well, let me say something to you, Judge. It's mighty weird because if you look at the videos, you see the white boys bust the store and break the window, but then the black guys go in there and take the shoes and stuff. It's kind of interesting how they do that.
I know, and look at the kind of shoes they get. Do any of them look like they're gonna put those shoes to use running anywhere?
Well, let me ask you one other thing here, because this happened today. I was working with some guys, and they just happened to talk about they were going to buy the new Jordans. I'm like, why are you doing that? You know, so what he said,
as rough as it is now, you want to spend your bucks on bling instead of bang, and you about to run out of money and you go buy some damn tennis shoes. What the hell are you gonna do? I's gonna run. Feet don't fail me now. Remember those old 1930 black and white detective movies? Especially one where they had, what was this Chinese detective in it? I forget his name. Anyway, they had a colored boy that was the chauffeur. He was always going, feet don't fail me now. So I guess they're buying all these shoes because they getting ready to run.
Well, let's say a question, because I'm gonna ask a question for
Charlie
Monique.
Chan. That's it.
Monique.
Yeah, the white boy playing Charlie Chan, and they
Monique.
his eyes made up so they look more
Monique
slanted.
I'm gonna ask a question for Monique 2C in her honor. But she actually for you. So matter of fact, you go ahead and say it. Give out your information, Judge. Actually, and we can say the show and stuff like that.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, you can find me on Fridays. Valerie Denise and I collaborate on this show, the Judge Joe Brown Show. It's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and if you call in to area code 929-477-1167, then you can listen in. Press 1 if you want to get in and comment. That's holding your hand up. Depending upon how things go, you might get to say something.
Are you still on Twitter or Parler or whatever?
I am about to pull the handles and eject from Twitter. That's getting to be a farce. The censorship is absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, you can tell who your enemies are by who you can't talk about. Now, the enemies can call us every nasty thing they want to in the books. Nothing gets done, even if you complain about it. On the other hand, don't you dare say faggot or something like that or impugn the LGBTQ cult. They will lock your account. Don't say the election got stolen. We got a little thing going on here in Memphis, Shelby County. The election commission for the last 4 election cycles used some hacked machines that the Justice Department in 2004, 2008, and 2019 declared to be irretrievably hacked, and there hasn't been a fair election in Memphis Shelby County for 20 years. And what did they use for the last 4 election cycles? These corrupt hacked machines. But guess what? The feds threatened to sue these county commissioners if they didn't put the money up that the feds had provided 12 years ago. So the county commissioners bought the machines but didn't tell anybody. And the machines, the new machines, have been sitting in a warehouse for 4 election cycles. Now, don't tell me that somebody isn't cheating on these elections. Yeah. Or how about this one? We talk about this. There's a county up in Michigan. It's registered 92% Republican. The exit polls show that Trump got almost 90% of the vote. And then the next morning, the residents were stunned to discover that Associated Press was claiming that Trump got 62% of the vote. So somebody filed a lawsuit in Michigan court, which, by the way, is still pending. The judge allowed experts to go in and examine the machines. They found all sorts of padlocks removed, seals broken, and they found that there was a 68% probability of erroneous votes or erroneous vote counting being done. The federal guidelines in a federal election are 0.0008, not 68%. So when they wound up doing an audit again, they found more votes cast, and there were people in the county in question to vote. And the judge has ordered the Secretary of State for Michigan to turn over all communications records with all of the media giants and stuff, because there's an allegation that these things were being planned, and it would show an interesting complicity in what would be a criminal conspiracy to alter the proper outcome of an election. And see, here's one thing we have to understand. Throughout recent history, the way this thing worked is a tyrannical party came in, did political stuff, got a few newspapers or periodicals on its side, got in basic power, staged something, and then used the stage thing to implement censorship, and then took control of the media, and then became a dictatorial tyranny. Now, that didn't happen here. What happened was the would-be tyrants already controlled the media, and they used the media they controlled to take control of the government after taking control of a political party, the jackasses. That is what that thing is. That's a mascot for the Democratic Party, isn't it? It's a jackass, like the other one's got an elephant. I don't like either one of them. I believe that we should be independents and sell our votes dearly. But it is what it is. So you got at least 11, high as 16 million illegals that Master Biden gonna legalize quick as he can. Guess where he's gonna get the jobs to employ them in, and the resources to take care of them that you ain't getting. And then there's several million rushing toward the border to get in before it's too late, so they can get fast tracked to a green card in 4 or 5 years, and citizenship in 8. The requirement of learning English is waived.
Just 7 days ago, Trump had completed his border wall, and it's mighty funny. It was at the Alamo, and if you listen to Trump, it sounds like he's talking in code.
He might be
at the Alamo. But it's 450 miles of wall.
Well, yeah, in other words, see, what happened in the Alamo was General Santa Anna's troops were surrounding some rebels who were attempting to have the colony of Texas secede from Mexico and become independent. So that's just like the Civil War. 11 states decided to leave the Union. So Mr. Lincoln decided to say, it ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna be no shit like that. There wasn't any shit like that. So the country got reunified. Well, Santa Anna was trying to reunify Texas with Mexico, and you got Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone, and all that bunch. And, you know,
Well, I want to ask one more
they
question.
did their thing, became independent, and then got absorbed by the United States. So I guess Alamo would be, hey, here we're making a stand where we save Mexico, Texas from getting taken back by Mexico or the United States. Southern, I guess maybe these jackasses have secretly promised to return California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas back to Mexico or something. I mean, I ain't got nothing against Mexicans, but if you're gonna come in here, goddamn it, do it the legal way, like everybody else did. Except us, we just got snatched and brought.
Well, let me say one thing, sir, to you. Yeah, like I want to go to back to one thing about Monique, because she said something like she was saying like she was on a show with me and Bishop earlier, and she was saying about scapegoating, right? And you were saying about the real white folk getting out there, right? So I just want you to just say one
They
thing.
don't
Like,
need anybody to incite them.
okay, that I know. And we really shouldn't need anybody to incite us because we should say that enough of this bullshit.
We didn't, but you know what they say? Our Negroes are always fine people, and we've had excellent and peaceable relationships with our colored people. And now these outside agitators like Martin or Malcolm, H. Rap Brown or Stokely, whatchamacallit, they come in and they incite our peaceful Negroes to violence. This just has to stop. So I guess white folk got incited in the same way by Massa Trump. I mean, they talk about Trump like he was Malcolm X or Martin, and exactly the same language. And people, I said, that ain't got nothing to do with race, man. This got to do with politics and reality. Study that shit instead of always trying to study black. Truth has no face but truth itself.
But let's
Archimedes
say
was
one
a
thing.
racist, slave holding bastard, but he
But
sure knew some math.
Faye first, but listen, as I keep telling you all the time, there was their First Amendment rights to be there. And then it's the worst part. The people who really was behind the operation was the same idiots that were burning your cities down all summer long.
Exactly.
And I said, but I want to say one thing,
I remember, and I've told you, young man, many a time I remember we were doing something back in the 60s. Let's go break these windows out, man, and fuck the place up, man. Wait a minute. Man, I know you. You're a detective. You out of the Westwood precinct, man. I'm not even a detective. Goddamn lying MF, man. You was sitting at the desk drinking some coffee, talking shit with some folk when they had me and Charles and what his name down there and Nathaniel, man. They was down there trying to interrogate us about what the BS you was gonna do. You lying him, get this motherfucker. Oh man, you got to get him. You know, down there trying to provoke a mess.
So I look at it like
That
this,
is
Judge.
so classic. Seeing if Negroes read, that has been a classic propaganda and incitement technique.
Infiltration.
Yeah, but I mean, it's only about 2,000 years old. The Romans used to do it to the German and Gaulish villages when they wanted to take over. They would sneak somebody in who would be dressed in rags and stuff like that, and he would incite some kind of upset that gave the legions the excuse to come in and Romanize the place. A few shields, helmets, and gladius swords, and run a few through and crucify a few. You know, that's how the Romans did it. That's how everybody did it. It's ancient, and Negroes don't know about it, and they just love them some CNN, Crying Negro Network. They believe anything on CNN.
Well, let's say one thing, Judge. Well, if you believe, like, I'm gonna just say something to you. If you believe anything CNN tell you, obviously your reality is already twisted right there.
But they don't know that.
I mean,
Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? That was in May last year on CNN. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. You're right. It is. So where are you getting all this information? Oh, that was on MSNBC, 2019. That was about September, wasn't it? Yeah. So why do you believe them? Well, they're established. They're not flat. Oh man, come on. They've been infiltrated. Practically, you can't get a job other than being anything but a janitor unless you bend over, unbelt, unbuckle, unbutton, drop your
hey, look,
britches, your boxers, and bend and
that's like,
spread butt cheeks.
hey, look, that's like, and that's like Don Lemon telling you that the white man is the scariest person in America, but yet he got a white husband, right? I'm like, and then they got the gay lineup. What is it? Don Lemon, Anderson Cooper, the gay lineup, right?
Don Lemon, Van Jones and Anderson Cooper. By the way, speaking of shit, did you see the decision of the New York appellate courts? Somebody sued somebody for defamation of character, said that the defendant falsely accused him of being gay. And you know what these asses said on their Supreme Court, jackasses, and I'm not worried about law license and shit now. They said there's no longer a defamation of character because there's no onus attached to being gay now. Like the hell it is. No, call
Wow.
you gay, you deserve a knuckle sandwich at the very least. Ass whipping, whatever in the hell you do to administer it, that's a grave insult. Who the hell are they?
Wow. That's a.
I mean, if you want to be gay, that's your goddamn business. But if you're a straight man, it's an insult.
Well, let me say something to you, Judge. And I want to bring this to you. Okay. Now, I think about that, but one more thing, because I got some guy in chat. So if you realize the NRA, you see this thing bankruptcy, right? You remember we were talking about
Yeah,
that?
they went bankruptcy and reincorporated in Texas. What that's about is this. Remember all this furor about corporations being fictitious persons?
Yeah.
Well, that isn't something new. That started back in the 1870s when they took the 14th Amendment and 15th Amendments and they applied it to corporations and said you cannot discriminate against corporations. They were entitled to equal protection and everything else because they're fictional persons. One of the reasons you incorporate is why, so you're not personally liable. The business is. So if the business goes bankrupt and is dissolved, there ain't no more person. So you just go to another state and become another fictional person. So the NRA is now a fictional person courtesy of Texas rather than New York, where it became fictional person incarnate, an inchoate person, they say, about 140, 45 years ago.
Hey,
The
look,
idea is based on the Civil War and the experiences they had training Union soldiers versus the Confederate Johnny Reb types. They said that we needed to make sure that the typical military prospect, the new recruit, already knew how to shoot when he reported for duty rather than having to be taught from the raw. They had so many Irish and Italians and stuff like that who came from countries where they were not allowed to shoot, that had to be shot how to pull the trigger and aim and pull the trigger. So they
well,
decided that wasn't going to happen again. So we forgot about that. I mean, the cupcakes are parasites. They get everything handed to them. They don't have to earn it. Somebody else defends them. Somebody else protects them from bullies. I mean, somebody else wipes their asses, after they butt fuck them, So, I mean, it's all well and good. I'm
Dr.
enjoying this,
Calvin, by the way,
I'm
Dr.
being
Calvin
rebellious,
Johnson.
damn it, because I'm angry. I did not do what I did to get somebody in a position to have freak sex, and the people that I did it for get shit less nothing.
Well,
I
look,
like cussing. I came out of
look,
South Central LA. Been years,
let,
but I ain't forgot. Shit don't get
Dr.
out of you. You
Dr.
can go,
Common.
well, in the scheme of things, sometimes it is appropriate to reminisce upon one's origins. And when one is in an appropriate venue, sometimes one may diverge from the ordinary and appropriate languages and might get more basic in one's communication. Instead of saying, sir, you are a reprobate and a disgrace, you can say, fuck you, motherfucker. And you get right to the point and people understand you.
Well, I will say one thing to you, Judge. Dr. Carmen Johnson got a question in the chat. She said, Van Jones gay?
You know, CNN is a weak tea where they grind up Van Jones's ass and make the tea. They put Don Lemons over it, squeeze it, and get lemon juice. And then they take Anderson Cooper and sweeten up the weak tea until it is super sugary and then feed it to everybody. And by the way, since it is no longer a defamation of character to call someone of the previous slur by saying he is gay, I guess that would be an epithet that one can hurl with impunity.
Well, let's say
Yeah,
one
he
other thing.
acts like it, doesn't he? Wait, crying because he's so happy that Massa Biden won. Oh, damn. Did you see Biden crying too? On the recent, yeah, all them cry boys.
Well,
They so happy.
it's part of that thing, and a guy was telling me something today, and I want to bring this up one last point before I go. Guy was telling me something. It wasn't the day, it was the other day. I think it might have been a day. And we were talking about good brother South Carolina, and he said, what did he say? What did he say? Oh, I know what he said. He said that they had already been gearing your mind up. Oprah back in the day brought trainers on her show, and then that was one thing they did. And then he said that, and then they started this era of men crying on TV. He said it's all right for men to cry on TV. No, it is not.
To be
Not
emotional. And don't forget Star Trek, where they had all these characters that could change genders and change appearances and be men, be women. Like one of the worst, Deep Space Nine and Star Trek The Next Generation. Remember the Klingon, Worf, the big brother, super macho? Well, he finally fell in love with this freaky fine looking sister. Well, I don't know what she was. Looks like she was Latina, and she had these tattooed beauty marks on her face. And it turned out that she had volunteered to be the host for a super intelligent parasite. And Captain Cisco, the black captain of Deep Space Nine, he knew this parasite is a guy, an old guy, so he calls him old man. So she and Worf do the wild thing and they're supposed to get married. All right. Now, see how that goes? Something changes gender and gets with a macho dude so you can get all this stuff confused and diffused and get used to it. And that was 30 years ago. All kinds of stuff like that in there. You ever see that?
Well, no, I didn't see that part.
That watch some of this Star Trek stuff. Watch Xena Warrior Princess. That was out in the late 80s. And it played right after Hercules. And Xena was half goddess, and she had this sidekick girl. And they never did anything. They just sort of implied that something funny was going on. And everybody used to say, man, you think they lesbians? I don't know, man. But you know, they're gonna poison this thing. They go and kick 5 dudes in the ass to work up an appetite for breakfast. Some woman's gonna get in trouble with somebody trying to emulate this stuff. Now they've got reruns, but they've included the footage they cut. And lo and behold, she and friend girls are under the blankets, humping away, doing the scissors thing, and kissing each other in the mouth, exchanging tongue. and spit and all this other stuff, rubbing on each other's asses on the scenes that they cut for consumption 32 years ago. Now it's okay.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna say
See what
this.
they do? That's all right. It's their business. But it's propaganda. How about John Dillerman?
Well,
You know who John Dillerman is?
oh, you know that daggone commercial, man.
No, it is a claymation thing for children. This dude is gay. He looks like Zorba the Greek with a knit cap and a big handlebar mustache, and he got the longest dick in the world. That's out of control. When he wants it under control, he ties it to a fence post and lets little kids jump rope on his dick. Horse gets out of control, running wild. He lassos the horse with his dick. Some kids about to drown in a raging current. He throws his dick in. All these little boys pulling on his dick to get up to safety. And when he pulls them to safety, he busts a nut because they was pulling on him, see. And then he can throw his dick up and reel himself up to a hovering helicopter. All kinds of crap. And this is a kiddie show? What in the hell's going on?
You're right about that. A lot of things
Are
are
you
not
looking
adding
at
up.
it now? Yeah.
Huh?
But
I was,
John Dillerman,
I was,
people believe it because CNN ran a little feature on it with some footage. Oh, CNN, Crying Negro Network, must be crying news, needy news network that has been made and proven to be reliable like hell.
well, I'm gonna say this to you, Judge. Gavin says, "Do you think that cartoon will be the last straw?" If we make it the last straw, Gavin, yeah.
We should, but you see, we're the majority. And by the way, there's a new scene that people aren't getting. Oh, yeah, that's still white supremacy. We're around it. People are xenophobic. That's human nature. But the bottom line is, this is the first time in American history did mainstream white folk, north, south, east, well, I don't know about east and west, but north and south, Midwest, hillbilly, redneck, homeboy, are all on the same side. And that is family, manhood, femininity, and children. And we all have a common enemy. That ought to be interesting if we worked it.
Well,
Think
well,
about it.
well. I say one thing, Judge, and I'm going to say this. One thing the white folk and some black folks, some black men and some women and women in this shit, they realize that this LGBTQIA plus whatever is an enemy of humanity, and there's a lot of perversion in that occult thing they're doing, especially with the children. They're going too far. So,
Lying, get to your children quick. Yeah, especially since they've been long hooked up on the QT with pedos.
yeah. And as a matter of fact, when we go to BLM, ageism, which actually ageism mean we want a space free of ageism.
Yeah, and
That's pedophilia.
that's in the Equality Act too, about ending the restrictions on age to consent. These kids can't even go buy tobacco or alcohol, but they can consent to getting a sex change. Uh, they need parental permission to go on a field trip, but they are supposed to be able to consent before they had their first hard on to being neutered. See, think about it. What do you do with a dog to make him safe?
You put them down, don't they?
No, you
Oh, you
neuter
knew
him.
that. Knew, yeah, that's right.
What are they talking about doing to all these children? Neutering them. Why? Because they're anti masculine. So if you neuter the animal, just like you neuter a dog, you get a safe animal.
Okay. Well, let's say one more thing here,
You
because I want to bring
also,
up.
if the animal change, see if the human uses his mind to neuter himself, that works too. That's that drag queen shit.
Okay.
Neuter the mind, neuter the balls, take them off, or do whatever you want to do so you don't have to worry about real men floating around.
Well, let me say something to you. One more thing.
Biting.
CNN also said something today that they want to start deplatforming people. They fear YouTube is getting more viewers than them and stuff like that. So I said, here we go again with the nonsense. They want to
Yeah,
suppress
they want to censor
information.
and wipe out free discourse on YouTube. They've done it on Twitter. Facebook is worse. Instagram is even worse. They got rid of Parler, which was the alternative. And
Back up.
CNN is spouting this bullshit that Parler was all about all of these racist, radical conservatives who were trying to kill everybody. That wasn't what Parler was about.
No, it was just an alternative. It's just alternative to
You
Twitter.
had 1,000 strokes instead of 280 that you have on Twitter, including spaces and punctuation. And there were no restrictions, which is what's supposed to happen with the First Amendment. And see, there's another goddamn thing. To sit there and try to enjoin criminality is un-American. It's against the law. And what the deal is you have free speech unless and until you break the law. If you break the law, then you get prosecuted. And if you get found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt or you plead guilty, you get punished if appropriate. You don't sit there and say, people may commit crime, therefore, we are not going to allow them to do certain things in their home because they may commit crime. We're not going to let them hear certain things because someone may be incited to criminality. There are some very specific rules and guidelines that have developed over the last couple of centuries in terms of what is permissible and what is not permissible. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled on that. But now we have private enterprise acting as a surrogate for the government to censor and propagandize in fashions that the government isn't supposed to be into.
Yep. And you know something, Judge?
See, this is funny about this. For example, if the police violate your rights to seize and acquire evidence, it's inadmissible. But you see, these constitutional protections deal with governmental action. It's kind of loose when it comes to what happened if a private person did what a government entity could not do. Well, they try to get away with that with Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook and all that other nonsense when they have a private concern which has monopolized all of the venues by monopolizing the airwaves to control what you say. Even idiots get on Twitter and say it's private, they can do what they want. No, they can't. Because, one, there are a limited number of wavelengths that can be used. That's the universe in physics. And if we allow certain frequencies to be reserved for commercial exploitation, they are only allowed to use those things if it's in the public interest. And if they monopolize those things, which is antitrust stuff, then they certainly can't use that monopoly to thwart the exercise of the Bill of Rights.
You're right. And look, I was gonna say this. So in coming up, we're gonna have to find a way to fight this. Since it's like Twitter, well, they just took a nosedive with the money, so they're gonna have to get their act straight.
Oh, they're almost down to $90 million in the hole now.
I mean, 90 billion.
$90 billion in the hole. I hope those some bitches go broke.
Well, you know what that
I
show?
laugh like they're laughing at Trump.
Well, and I know you said one thing.
By the way, I don't think that's a good move because Trump didn't incite anybody to riot in D.C., but mainstream media is sure as hell inciting these good white folk to get real ugly. And some black folk too. Ooh, man, they like, I've talked to some people, it's like Judge, you feel like you've been slapped in your face by all this? I said, yes, sir, I sure as hell do. See, I can
80,
talk like him
hey,
too.
look.
He likes that shit.
Well, let me
So
tell you something, Judge. If you look, if a person got 88.3 million followers on Twitter, and you suspend their account, you're gonna lose a whole lot of money because his followers are gonna leave. Just like Paula, you can do that. All right.
and see, some of these corporations are about to catch hell too, because the overwhelming majority of the folk in the United States, they don't like this. Remember, they're the same ones that used to have offending magazines yanked off of the shelves of department stores, bookstores, drugstores, all of this stuff because they are grocery stores because they offended some religious group. Now, all of those people are still out there and they ain't gonna use their bucks to talk, and I'm just gonna crack up when I watch the results. This shit's
Hey,
gonna
look.
be good. Hey
Hey,
man,
look.
this is just what you wanted, man. You
Hey,
think
look.
it ain't gonna happen?
Hey, look. I told somebody, hey man, well, I look at it as a rude awakening. Get your goddamn popcorn ready and blah blah. God damn it, let's get it on.
Here's the way it goes. Yes, man, we had a right to do this, man. We need to be free from all of these crazy people, man, running around trying to be all this masculine thing, man. It's toxic masculinity. Jesus Christ, Judge. You know, I can't stand them son of a bitches, you know. They gets on my last goddamn nerve, you know. Yeah. Judge, what are we going to do about all of these Neanderthal tapes, man? Judge, goddamn it, I'm just itching for one of them to get ugly and come in my damn neighborhood. I got something for their ass. Say, yes, man, we have to be peaceful, and Biden's going to get all of these guns out of the hands of all of these maniacs. They can take my gun from my dead cold hand. Jesus, man, it's so refreshing. Now there's a return to common sense. Jesus gracious, Judge.
Hey, well, look,
These
like I
goddamn
said,
punk asses, they've been protected their whole sorry ass life. They
like I
ain't
said,
had
hey,
to
look,
deal with
hey,
nothing.
Judge,
Everything been
it's
given
better.
to their ass.
Look, Judge, this movie is better than any football game, better than any
Yeah,
basketball game.
it's gonna be interesting, man. I'm gonna sit back. Yeah, I'm not eating no goddamn popcorn. I'm gonna pop a bottle of ice cold Dom Perignon and sip that shit, man, and get to chilling. Say, baby, come sit on daddy's knee while we
Well,
watch the festivities.
hey, look, well, I just gotta say one more thing. You see, one thing about it, Trump sparked the populist revolution back. The people saying we don't want this government, we're tired of this stuff. Right? The revolution say you don't like what your government doing, you got the right to overthrow it. Hey,
See, what these cupcakes are forgetting, seriously, the first modern revolution, first one in history, started in the United States of America. The bloodiest civil war in history started in the United States of America. By the way, more people got killed in that war than in all the other wars the U.S. has been in combined. Those are the same folk. These are the motherfuckers with the Nazis and the Japanese Empire all at the same time. Funded the Russians so they could kick some Hitler ass also. These are the folk that invented the goddamn atomic bomb and were the number one power in the world, still the number one power in the world. There actually, right now, is nobody on this planet that can beat the U.S. military in a set piece stand up battle. Guerrilla war, that's another thing. But then the U.S. invented guerrilla war. So it's interesting. And not these cupcakes. Man, it's about love, not war, man. You know, make love. It's flowers, man, beauty and love. I even heard something they had on there. Men bullying men. One of these little chat room things on, what is it, Clubhouse? On
Yeah.
Clubhouse, you don't text, you can actually talk. And this fool was saying, yes, man, I've found that bullies are just starved for love. And if you give them love, they will be your friends. You don't have to worry about fighting. Just say, hey, man, I understand your pain, man. Like, God
I got
damn.
one more question for you, Judge, in the chat. They said they
By
need
the
a
way, I got to say this about Clubhouse. It's interesting what goes on there. I'm not saying don't join and try it. In fact, you can set up your own meeting rooms. But one of the things that is interesting is that when you look at the logo, it's got a rainbow in it.
goddamn. Look, they got
Right in the middle. It's a little bitty one when you look at it on the screen. I had to take a screenshot and, enlarge it. That's a damn rainbow.
oh look,
Sneaky little bastards.
and look, one more one
Sneaky
more
little bastards.
one more question for you
Brother
in the chat.
Johnson, you have to be careful. They have no scruples that they apply to their activities, and they will stoop as low as it requires. They'll even lay flat on their tummies with their butts up in the air, ready to get stuck. They will stoop so low, lay so low.
He said they need a scapegoat to avert this populism, where the black Democrats be that scapegoat.
They don't even get that far. See, what they are scapegoats in terms of deflection of blame. And colored folk, like you pointed out, you sent me that material. The black voter registration was actually down for this last election cycle compared to 2016. One, two, we know there was a cheat going in spite of what Twitter and all that bunch say. Associated Press has said there's been no fraud this election like hell. About 40% of the American public is well aware that a whole lot of fraud happened. And in a
Now
few
there are
years,
hearings about it where you can watch.
yeah. So that's not going to do anything about with the suppression except piss people off. But anyway, black people are running around saying we beat that Trump. Oh, we got Biden in. It's why doing. See, black power. Oh hell, man, you didn't do that. Didn't you hear Master Biden? What is it? The 24th of the month? What is it, October, November? You know it.
October
Master
24th,
Biden
he
was
said we
saying,
have created
we
the
just
greatest
pulled
voter.
off the biggest election fraud in American history. And then when he was talking to the colored folk on that Zoom call the NAACP had, he said, look at here. We can't have all of this about defund the police. We've got to win Georgia if we want to take control of the Senate so we can get our agenda in. We can't have this. We got our asses kicked out here because of that in this election.
Yep.
We got our asses kicked everywhere. Does that sound like somebody who won an election? Or does it sound like somebody who is acknowledging a real fact, but had previously bragged with his big ass mouth that they had engaged in election fraud? That's like that one back in January 19th on C-SPAN, on stage with that conference. He said, yeah, I guess I am guilty of fraud and extortion. See, that prosecutor, yeah, he's investigating my son, but we said he's got to go. And a few words dropped here and there about losing 14 billion in loan guarantees. Yeah, that got to somebody, and ink hadn't gotten dry on the paper before they fired that prosecutor. Yeah, big mouth idiot. He's always been like that, shooting his dumb mouth off. They say he's getting senile. He may be, but that's not why he's shooting his mouth off. He's always done that. And then he lied about his academic career. He ran for president in 1987. He had to withdraw because they found he had gotten busted in law school for it and disciplined for plagiarism.
Yep. Hey, look. Well, I'm gonna say this.
Speaking of which, how about since yesterday was Martin Luther King Day, How about Humping Harris stealing that thing off of King about one of the King family about remembering as a child being pushed in a parade or demonstration and a white cop coming up talking stuff, and he said, "What are you here for, little boy? Freedom." And she goes, "The same thing." She's about liars.
Well,
Can't
Kamala
trust.
Harris had nothing to do with the civil rights movement at all, so that was just a lie.
Oh yeah, like she wants to talk about her daddy and mama were leaders in the civil rights movement. When she was talking about that happened, the civil rights movement was near dead. And that's when Freedom Park was up there in San Francisco, where they were starting to get ugly, protesting the war, protesting the lack of freedom, protesting a different kind of way about we ought to be free to smoke dope if we want to. We ought to be free to have free love. If girls want to run around, burn their bras, and take their tops off with their titties out, they should be able to do that. That's what was going on.
Well,
You know,
well,
they went. She even tried to imply that her daddy was behind forming the Panther Party and behind forming starting Kwanzaa. I know the no good snake, Ron Everett, aka Ron Karinga, mile liner Ron Karinga, that started that ignorant goddamn shit in 1966 at Lamert Park in LA on Crenshaw Boulevard at 42nd Street, not the residential area, the real park. He said it was to encourage black folk to talk more, and found out later on that it was about him encouraging black folk to talk as the exchange during Kwanzaa so he could snitch on us more readily. That fool used to have his orangutans running around taking shorthand notes. We'd get hauled in from BSU by the FBI a couple of weeks later, and they'd quote you verbatim what you said at a meeting.
hey, look. Well,
And by
ladies
the
and
way, one last thing I got to say. Damn this unity shit. A lot of things have to happen before we can have unity. We have to weed out all of the traitors, the snitches, the informants, the agents, and all of those who mean us no well.
sloppy seconds Harris needs to stop it.
You see that shit on CNN with that woman interviewed her, and Kamala Harris was giggling and laughing about Pence. Ah, he won't even meet with a woman unless his wife is present. Ah, and the woman said, "You know, if Mayor Willie Brown and a few others had had that policy, you wouldn't be where you are now, would you?" Harris just shut up and say that.
well, let me say
It was
something.
kind of funny,
I gotta say
actually.
one more thing about her. You know, I was looking at thinking about something, and I'm gonna have to ask some sisters about it. You know, y'all keep saying that y'all got the first black vice president, right, or whatever you
No, you
claim.
don't. No, no, no. Forget that. What they say is we have the first black Greek vice president of the United States. No, you don't. Bullshit. Alpha Phi Alpha had an interesting white boy, bald headed, who was the official and actual vice president of the United States under Lyndon Baines Johnson and the Democratic Party nominee for U.S. president in 1968 against Tricky Dick Nixon. He lost that one, but his name was Hubert Humphrey from Minnesota. When I pledged back in 66, we had to go meet Big Brother Hubert Humphrey, who was vice president of the United States of America, an Alpha Phi Alpha member. See, just because you're a member of a black fraternal organization or a sorority doesn't mean you black. And that white boy, big ass sucker, got made back in the 1930s and then got remade in grad school.
Well, let's say one other thing here. Yeah, like I say, she needs to stop it. But really, to tell you the truth, we gotta stop them from even pulling this game off because she's a fraud. And matter of fact, come to think about it. Now, one thing I will say before I go, Biden actually also admitted in that interview on October 24th that Obama didn't win neither because he said we use the same system for him, and
I got it. They've
that's
been
what he
using
said.
it here in Shelby County and a lot of other places for years. Have you ever heard of Tammany Hall?
I heard that name. Yeah.
They ran New York for about 45, 50 years. And Tammany Hall anybody Tammany Hall endorsed was going to win the election because they stuffed the ballot box.
Well, let's say something about Obama though, because like I just
Obama
saying,
Tang.
Kamala Harris a fraud, but he a fraud too.
Yeah, the Obama Tang, the Bush Bunny. See, that was Bushman, Bush Boy, and Bush Bunny. Bushman was the first Bush in presidential office. Bush Boy was the idiot George W. And Bush Bunny was Barack Obama Tang. And the interesting thing is that guess what? They're all cousins. Also, Dick Cheney was one of their cousins, and Warren Buffett too, through Obama Tang's mommy.
CIA.
Well, they had something to do with it, yeah. And see, Grandmommy was with the CIA. She was an agency woman. She was vice president of a Hawaiian bank, and she distributed the CIA funds clandestinely in the Southwest Pacific. See, Obama Tang's daddy he's a contractor. He ran the spy agency for the CIA and the NSA
And
in
he got
North
money in Hollywood.
Korea.
He had money in Halliburton too.
Well, yeah, but aside from that, I'm talking about for the intelligence community.
Okay.
He operated the spy system for the CIA, such as it was in the People's Republic of China in North Vietnam. This is when the Vietnam War was kicking in, for Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and for Indonesia. Indonesia was at one point listed in the State Department as a communist country. When Barack Obama was born and got adopted, it was listed as a communist country. And see, Obama's adopted daddy, if I recall correctly, was wanted back in the late 1960s on a warrant from The Hague charging him with crimes against humanity, to commit mass murder. He was accused of killing between 500,000 and 750,000 people. You can't find it now, no how, no way. But we studied it. You can't find it on Google. You'd have to be knowing where to look in a library, hard copy library, and not a small one. But we talked about it in international criminal law. The U.S. kept blocking The Hague serving the warrant on the Obama Tang's daddy, or the adopted one anyway.
Well,
It's big game. By
well,
the way, the first George W. Bush, he did have some claims. He got shot down in an Avenger torpedo plane in the Navy on a mission near a place called Iwo Jima, which is nearby to Iwo Jima. And they had a fanatic Japanese colonel that used to like to drink sake and barbecue the liver of a sacrificed American prisoner pilot. So he almost got caught, but just barely got rescued. He had the unique distinction of being the youngest combat pilot in the U.S. military in all of World War II. He was 19 when he got shot down. So I guess he got a little bit going for him. He went to Yale and he wound up graduating in 2.5 years. He was captain of the football team, the baseball team, president of his frat, president of Skull and Bones, which is another frat. And George W. was just a dumb bunny that when they released his information, he got in on a legacy thing. And it turned out he got in Yale on a D average. Can you believe that?
Wow.
The year after he got in on a D average, they said no more legacy admissions. He just squeaked in. Idiot ass used to sit up in class chewing tobacco and making everybody freaked out when he spit into a Dixie cup.
Well, let me say one more thing before I get out. So it's saying that this woman Sidney Powell has agreed to dismissal of Georgia lawsuit, but Maricopa County, Arizona, has agreed to audit the ballots needed there, and lead plaintiff, the fearless Kelly Ward, has a seat at the table to select the auditor. We have only begun the fight. So actually, what's mighty funny, Michigan and Arizona are still going on with court cases in the middle of it.
And you know what's going to happen? Let me cut you off. Yeah, that's true. It won't have any difference once they swear the fools in, but there is a thing called Freedom of Information Act. Back on Bush v. Gore 2000 in Florida, the mainstream media exercised the Freedom of Information Act, and they got to send in a joint team of statisticians to count every single vote cast in Florida, and Gore won with a 62% vote count. Well, 62% of the vote. But the Supreme Court then decided it on a 5-4 decision on behalf of Bush boy. Bushman, Bush boy, Bush bunny.
Well, I was going to say this. It's been a pleasure, and glad that you came on.
And we run out of time. Good. I need to get out of here. I got some stuff to do, man.
That's all right, man. We take your time. But just take your time, and thanks for shouting out your information. And I guess we see you on Clubhouse or something else, huh?
Well, here I'm about to bail on Twitter. They still won't give me a blue check, but I do tweet at Judge Joe Brown TV. At Judge Joe Brown TV. On Parler, I was Judge Joe Brown, and by the way, they gave me the red P in about 15-20 minutes after I joined. Clubhouse, I'm Judge Joe Brown, and let's see what else they have out there. Facebook, I'm Judge Joe Brown. No, I'm not Judge Joe Brown. I'm Joseph Brown. They wouldn't let me use Judge Joe Brown. Facebook wouldn't believe I'm me. And I got some alias or something on Instagram. The only reason I have Instagram is every now and then I get something I need to get on there to so I can look at what somebody sent me. But that's so crazy. I'm not into, here I was, I had canapes at St. George's, and nibbled some brie cheese with some exotic water crackers.
Okay, well, Judge, like I say, it's always a pleasure.
Again, Fridays, Judge Joe Brown with Valerie Denise at 929-477-1167.
Hi, brother. Well, thanks for shouting that out. I meant to tell you to do that at the end. Thank you, man.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while. Anyway, I'm out of here. Great evening, brother. And let's see. I think we might have some non-scripted entertainment in the next few months.
Hey, the revolution won't be televised.
The revolution will not be televised. Gil Scott-Heron and the Jazz Messengers. By the way, he's from nearby Jackson, Tennessee. I've got some connections up there. He may be a cousin. I found out Sinbad, who is not doing well, is in fact a cousin.
I got me some water.
My mother and his mother were cousins.
Hey, I got me some water, and I think I'm gonna watch me a good movie, Clash of the Titans.
And I got some wine in the hell. Don't
All
drink
right,
much
man.
these days, but
Take
I
your time.
might have to get a drink to watch.
Take your time, man.
You know what? Maybe one of them will slip and fall and break its neck in the ceremony. Wouldn't that be ironic and funny?
Well,
I hate to do that, but I mean, I'm from South Central LA. I ain't got good sense on that shit. You know, hell.
hey, hey, man, take your time, brother.
I mean, I don't wish him wrong or her wrong, but wouldn't it be ironic and cosmic justice if? Just saying. Anyway, let me shut up before they say I'm trying to incite some shit.
No, man, take your time, man.
See, this shit is dangerous. This is Fallout. You can't even joke about this shit now. You may incite someone to violence. No, I am not inciting anyone to violence. Be peaceful. Obey the law. But I ain't watching your ass all the time. You on your own. I got better shit to do than be spied on you. You know, hey.
Well, yeah,
Anyway,
man.
I'm out of here, man. Let me
You
go.
do.
Where is the guy? Oh, there it is.